Hello, I'm Julianne with Healthy Living with Julianne. Thanks so much for joining me for my health series, Steps to Boost Your Immune System During This Health Crisis. I'm very excited today to be addressing the topic of what you're thinking and feeling, the mindset, the keys to health. What you feel, what you think really does affect your health physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I have what I consider to be an expert on this topic. She is an entrepreneur, a consultant, a Taekwondo expert, a writer, a poet, a mother of two. And the way we connected is she is now my publisher.
Yay.
So the book she published and invited me to contribute to, The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing, Volume 3. Laura Di Franco is one amazing woman. She has taught me an enormous amount over the process of publishing this book, not only about writing and being the best me, but for many years, it was suggested to me that I put my health recovery story in a book. And I said, there's a couple of reasons I can't do that. One, it's too painful. I don't want to relive it. Number two, I can't spend all that time writing a book without an ROI, return on investment. I have to pay bills. And so Laura has really helped me. I wrote a chapter, which was about all I could tolerate right now. She's helped me get in touch with some of the unresolved issues I had in my health recovery story, put it on paper to help you, along with 24 other co-authors. People like myself who have a bit of a tragic story where we pulled ourselves out using various tools, and Laura pretty much helped package us. She helped us write it. She helped walk us through some of the emotional challenges that we faced, and she helped us learn some business and marketing tools along the way. So I'm very excited to have her here today. She is really not just a publisher, but she was a physical therapist for many, many years. And in March 2020, when COVID hit, she'd been publishing, but she said, oh, so she's also a leader in reinventing herself. And I think we can all learn from that during this health crisis, because most of us need probably a second or third stream of income because there's so much uncertainty, particularly in the wellness community. So Laura, thank you for joining us today.
I'm super happy to be here. I love talking about all of these topics. They're my favorite topics.
Excellent. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you shifted to publishing, and kind of what you learned in the process that helped you help others. You have a huge sphere of influence and several Facebook groups. So how did you put all this together? It's really quite impressive.
Wow, yeah, it's a big question, right? So I've been in holistic physical therapy for 30 years and opened up my own practice in 2008. And when I did that, I realized the necessity for understanding the business and for writing, actually. So I started to blog at that point to educate current clients, prospective clients about all of the different holistic healing topics. And a few years after that, I ended up self-publishing my first book, which was a huge leap toward getting my message out in a bigger way. And it took a few more years till about, I guess it was about 2016 when I decided I really wanted to have a second company that focused more on the coaching and the speaking and the writing. And so I created Brave Healer Productions with a really big mission to help my fellow healers write and speak about what they do in a way that other people not only get it, but are excited to work with you. As healers, we're in it. We live the journey every single day, but we are not so great at talking about it, selling it, marketing it, or promoting it. None of us went to school for that. We went to school to become a master healer, is what we did, right? It's enough school. So I learned a thing or two along the way, and I got really jazzed about helping my fellow healers. And at this point in time, I've got 14 books published and decided I needed to start publishing for others. So yeah, the lockdown for me was actually a huge gift. It was kind of a little bit of a shove. It was like the universe said, hey, you've been thinking about transferring or transitioning for too long now. So we're just going to make this a little easier for you. And, you know, Maryland announced the lockdown that day, and I panicked a little bit, but not too long. So that's the short version, Julianne.
Excellent, excellent. And so talk a little bit about these 3 volumes that you've done and the concept and the mission. As I've observed, my background is I have an MBA, and my background's corporate marketing and business. So when I got into the wellness arena, I met all these really cool, innovative wellness practitioners who were struggling because they didn't want to sell, they didn't want to market, they didn't know how to write, they didn't know how to do PowerPoints. And so they didn't have the skills needed. So you have workshops and you do consulting on all of those things, including Facebook branding. So tell us a little bit about how those services, how you're helping wellness practitioners with those.
Well, so writing and speaking from that place that feels confident and clear and good, you know, speaking about your message, it does take practice, first of all. But what I realized is that a lot of practitioners were getting over this is what I call it, their purpose-driven fear. They were having fears come up like, oh, this isn't going to be good enough, or who am I to talk about this, or who am I to sell, you know, or somebody else has already done that. I guess I can't do that. So many inner critic BS self-sabotaging messages going on. And so I wanted to develop some courses and things that would support those practitioners in practicing using their voice, both in writing, literal copywriting, in a way that other people really understand and it speaks to them like you're in their head, right? It's really important as a business owner to either understand it well or hire somebody who understands it well, right? So that's one piece, but then also stepping in front of people, getting on stages, getting on online events, and actually being able to speak your message in a way that really, again, not only does your audience get it, but they're motivated, they're inspired, they feel something, they feel some hope, and they're putting away their phone and actually listening to you, right? Because you understand how to deliver a message. That's been super exciting for me. I think it's about time that the healers of the world had a bigger voice anyway. We are changing the world one brave word at a time. You've heard me say that before.
I have heard you say that before. And talk to the listeners who maybe are not healers, but they may be challenges during COVID. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's mental, having difficulty concentrating. The kids are having difficulty concentrating. The parents are trying to juggle watching the kids while they are working and developing businesses. Emotionally, we're all stressed, some more than others. And then spiritually, some people are spiritually not, they're kind of devoid of any spirituality. And so what are some of the tips that you learned from my co-authors in these volumes that can help people to kind of put it together so that what they think manifests in their bodies in a positive way instead of bringing them down, because this is such a difficult time?
The foundation of what you're talking about is an awareness practice. And people love to use the word mindful, but I actually like the word bodyful better. I made that up. Because you really need to clear your mind. You don't want a full mind. You want a clear, calm mind, and you want to be in your body, feeling and sensing and connecting with your inner guide, your intuition, and your own inner wisdom. And to do that, so, the books are toolkits. They're toolkits full of 25 different awareness tools. That's how I see these beautiful books. Because you're all teaching a form of awareness in a little bit different way. Some address the body, some address the mind and mindset and mental and emotional, and some address soul and spiritual. And actually, I would say that all the chapters address all three things, because it's about integrating all of those things all the time. It's in the holistic integration of mind, body, and soul in your life, no matter what topic area we're talking about. That is the key. And awareness is the key, because with awareness, we get a choice to respond to our lives in the moment we're in. But if we're checked out and unconscious and triggered and reacting in the moment that we're in, we're not going to have any opportunity. We're just reacting instead of thoughtfully and consciously responding in a way that is healthy and aligns with our bigger goals to be a healthy, happy human. So this is really the foundational idea in all of healing, I believe. I know that sounds big, but I think it is big. Is that when you have a practice of awareness, you have a key to moving forward toward joy.
Excellent. Excellent. And so what are some of the tips that you may have learned along the way being a physical therapist or in the publishing? What are some specific practices that you found may be helpful to people who are listening?
Well, you're going to find all kinds of things in the books, of course, but breath work comes to mind. And as a profound and very easy, accessible tool in any moment, right? Because right now, you and I can be aware of what's going on in our own breath. Are we holding our breath a little nervous, or are we taking fuller, deep, relaxed breaths, right? So breath work, and there are things like tapping, meditation, myofascial release, nutrition and detox, which you wrote about. Oh my gosh, on and on, right? So now we've got 3 volumes, and so there are 75 tools. You're going to make me come back here and open one up here for you. Maybe I should just do that right now. I'll give you a couple more. But you're asking for tips, and my tip is don't give up. I don't care how many things you've tried. There will be something out there for you. And what if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? That's my very favorite question of the universe, because it puts you in a possibility mindset rather than a negativity and loss of hope mindset, right? What if there's something you haven't learned yet? Like, I love being in a beginner's mind. That comes from my Taekwondo practice. Always being a learner and beginner, even after 6 years of training and earning the black belt. That's the biggest lesson we learn, is that, we're just at the beginning of knowing what we don't know. So art, therapeutic art is here in the book. Detachment practices, communication, sacred chant, busting burnout. I'm just reading you some of the lovely titles. Energetic womb healing. Oh my goodness. Mantras, mudras. I mean, some of the stuff in here you may never have heard of, and some you may have heard of, but not through the story of the unique author who's telling it to you or teaching you the tool. Mm-hmm. So that's another thing I love about these books.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that mantra, because in the community where I am with people with autoimmune issues, it just happened yesterday. Someone said, I've tried everything. It hasn't worked. And I said, well, then you haven't found what works for you yet.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, in our conventional medical world, people are used to going to a doctor who says, here's a pill, take it, everything will be fine.
Oh, holy moly, don't get me started on this one.
And,
Yes.
and so I don't want to say that that isn't appropriate sometimes,
Right.
but it's a little hard for those of us in wellness because wellness is a bit of work. It's work.
Yeah.
It's identifying, opening doors that they may close, but continuing to open doors. And it doesn't all come in a package for each person, and each person's different. And so I love that you say that possibility mindset, because that's what I felt when I was struggling, was hopelessness.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I've tried so many things. I've spent all this money. I've declared bankruptcy. And you just have to get up every day and keep looking and keep trying, and know that your body may change over time, and what works today may not work, in a couple of months. But you keep trying different things. And so I think that that is really key, because what you think, and I think the Asians, as you know from being a black belt, the Asians value the power of the mind a little bit more, I think, than we do, don't you?
I mean, definitely there are cultures that focus on that as a foundational way of life. And
Yeah.
so Taekwondo for sure is a way of life, right? I learned that very quickly. It wasn't just like going to exercise class. It was about how you were thinking in the moment and amongst your classmates and in the moves that we practiced, and some of the more advanced techniques, really disciplining your mind, right? Master Holloway has a quote. It says, discipline the mind and the body will follow. And it took me a few years to get to really understanding what he meant by that, but it's so true and so important. If you want your body to be a certain way, to feel a certain way, to look a certain way, you're going to have to get your mind right. And that's going to be coupled with the action taking that you do in the alignment of the thoughts, right? And so that's why we call it a practice. I'd say that some of those awareness practices, man, we're practicing ninja moves here. We need to up level our ability to move through the world in a different way when it comes to the way we think about things. And so for some people, the very basic idea is, how do I move from my negativity? It seems like I've got this habit of always thinking negatively or worst case scenario about things. How do I move that from that to positive? And I always remind people, sometimes you can't jump all the way to the happy, positive stuff. Sometimes you just need to take a breath and clear your mind and come into the neutral zone. And they're looking about at that big leap, and they can't make it. It feels impossible. Well, what about just taking a moment and breathing and clearing your mind? Take a small step. I think of a teeter-totter, right? I'm old school playground girl here. And rather than pushing it all the way to the other end, what if you just evened out, right? Just take that breath. Close your eyes, take a couple of breaths, take a walk in the woods, just chill out, and you don't have to necessarily jump over to the positive. However, I'll just add lastly there that when I prioritized joy for myself unapologetically, I never had felt such health physically than when I made the decision to prioritize my own joy. And that's been really, really important. So you're waking up every day and you're not feeling so good, and there's a lot of negativity going on in your head, and you're not feeling good, you're not thinking good. It's time to take a pause. I don't like to use the M word, meditation, but I will, because there's nothing wrong with, sitting on a pillow for an hour, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the moments where you quiet and you are bodyful, and you just ground and center into your deep breath. It can be that simple.
It's changing your state of mind.
Mm-hmm.
One step at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have a choice. Some people, their glasses are half empty, and some people, their glasses half full. And I also find gratitude and thankfulness is helpful to see what you do have. instead of what you don't have.
Gratitude is so important. You know, you can't have a fear thought and a grateful thought at the same time. So if you can move into gratitude, you'll be overpowering some of the negative stuff automatically. When I'm my worst days, I think about who might need a little love, support, or help today, right? And I move into being thankful that I'm alive, and who might I be able to give a gift to that needs it right this moment. It's an instant energy shifter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And I think that's what's key in this mind shift. One step at a time, one thought at a time, one breath at a time. And then you start to develop a lifestyle. And it becomes much easier. And particularly during this health crisis, where people are stretched in all different directions. And another thing I wanted you to talk about just a little bit is reinventing yourself. And you mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but it is really quite remarkable to go from physical therapist to publisher, business coach, poet, consultant. And you're quite a leader for many people in the space. And just talk a little bit about how that evolved and, you know, kind of what you've seen in terms of people overcoming their fears.
Well, reinventing myself. I mean, you know, I had that big moment and that big pivot, but I feel like I had been preparing my whole life for it, really. But you only know that when you're on the other side of it. And in the meantime, when you cannot see the big picture and things aren't going the way that you expected, you tend to go negative in your thinking. But I have learned to take a pause in the hardest moments, and that question, you know, what if there's something you haven't learned yet? What if there's something that hasn't happened yet? What if there's something you can't see right now? And what's the opportunity? So I'll tend to pause on a bad day and just go, this is interesting how this is working out today. I wonder what, you know, the universe has in store for me on this one. Now, believe me, that's easier said than done sometimes. I told you about my day yesterday. Yesterday was tough in the moment of I had to have an ER visit, not me, but my son. And it was rough. And I even played with myself in my own mind about it. I'm like, ooh, you preach this all the time. This is your chance. This is your chance to do what you tell everybody else to do. So I did. I just relaxed. I breathed. I didn't go try to jump to positive because I knew it would be impossible yesterday, you know, so I just came to the middle. But the thread through all of my life, and interestingly, I can only really talk about it now looking back, right? That's true for a lot of us, is I had been journaling since I was 15 years old. I had written down almost everything in my life, and I had used those pages to heal myself, to talk about things I couldn't talk to about anyone else, to discover myself made of and where I wanted to go and what my biggest dreams were for my life. Right. And as I look back at all of those stages of writing, you know, finally opening up my own business, starting to blog, writing my first book, and then my second, and then my third, all of the poetry that came out of me, I think the common piece or the pivotal moment was giving myself permission to be out loud with my words, knowing that they were worthy. And that's been a lifelong pursuit from well before I knew what I wanted to do with myself all the way to today. I would say that that's the thread that ties my whole life together. What the message I would have for everybody watching today is you were born, so you are worthy, and your message matters. And what if this thing that you're a little afraid to share out loud is exactly what someone needs to hear to change their life or save their life, right? So I woke up to that several years back, and I've been gangbusters ever since. There's been a fire under me when I finally realized that I could change someone else's life by being out loud about my message or my story. You know, you mentioned a difficult story and feeling some kind of way about sharing that with people, and you didn't want to relive it because you don't want to be re-traumatized by it, right? And I hope you figured out that moving through that process, there was a way to write that story that wasn't about re-traumatizing yourself. It was about healing other people who would read it. What a huge shift that is. Right. So if you're listening and you're like, oh, I know I've had a story. I know I have a book in me or whatever it is, right? You do. Everybody does. So I don't even know if I answered your question, but that's that's where that answer went.
I think worthiness is very key, particularly for women.
Yes.
From what I see, women don't always value their voices and their messages, and particularly in the healing profession.
Well, we were taught to be quiet. Yes. We were taught to behave. We were taught to be a good girl. We were taught a lot of things, right? That doesn't necessarily breed a leader. And so when you think about it, when you look back at what you've been taught and what you've lived through, and you're feeling this burning desire at this point to do this, it is healing work of coming through that fear and standing on the other side of that big wall of fire. It's how it feels sometimes, right? And looking back and thinking, oh, I can do this. And as I do it and people watch me, I actually give other people permission to do it because they can see me doing it and they know I didn't die from it. You know, first time I stood on a stage, I swear I was gonna die, but it got better after that, right? So it got better and I got a lot of head nods and I got a couple of tears and I really started to understand that this was not about me and my boring fear of not good enough. This was about the person sitting in the audience who needed to hear the message in exactly the way I had to tell it. Only me could tell it. And so now I can stand on a stage. I'm not going to tell you I don't get nervous, but I can tell you now that I stand with a confidence that whatever comes out is going to be perfect exactly the way that I want to do it that day, exactly the way it happens. And I can get out of my own way and just deliver that gift. So yeah.
You're doing it. You're badass.
I'm working on it. Nothing wrong with a little healing badassery.
That's it. You inspire me. You inspire many, many people, Laura. Thank you so much for all you've done in a very short period of time to give us some tools, give us inspiration, confidence, and help us, you know, reach deep within and help other people with our story. I really appreciate it. I love the community. And sometimes it could be kind of lonely for us wellness practitioners. You know, kooky, bizarre. Those are words I've heard.
Yeah, it's so important to understand that there are a community of people waiting to wrap their arms around you. And that if you hear words like that, those aren't your people. You need to come into a place and a community where you can really be yourself and do your thing amongst other people who are doing their thing, and you're doing it together. You can do it by yourself, but you don't have to. That's right. With awareness, there's a choice. So when you start to get introduced to communities that are doing things together in collaborative energy, like the books, it's big energy. And it changes the world. It really does. I don't, you know, used to feel a little corny saying that, but it really is big potatoes stuff we're talking about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I love the fact that you pivoted during this very difficult health crisis, giving people voices when it's very important. The defensive steps that we're being told to do, wash our hands, wear a mask, keep a distance, are defensive.
Yes.
They're defensive measures. They're not proactive. And what you've done, Laura, and what we're doing with these books is giving people proactive steps, some at home, some we need to go back to the practitioners, to the doctors, to the dentists. But I think what you're giving people is the power, the confidence to look within and see if we can adopt these natural steps, these natural remedies before we run off and sign up for a medication or a pharmaceutical, which may be necessary. But a lot of other cultures have adopted these kind of natural remedies and approaches, and they've been thriving. So that's our goal today is to help you, the viewer, thrive, come into your own and into your own power, so that you are the best you can be, and you don't live in fear for however long we have this crisis, but rather you're empowered. So tell everybody how they can reach you, Laura, and what kind of events you have coming up where people can join in.
Oh, thank you. You can come visit me at bravehealer.com, you guys. And of course, I'm all over Facebook. You'll find me by typing in my name, Laura Di Franco. I have a free writing group on Facebook called The Right Habit. That's WRITE, habit. And another one called Brave Badass Healers, a community for world changers. So if you are looking for a new community to play with, please come on into one of those free groups. And I offer some free coaching and free guidance in both of those groups in different kinds of ways, all through the month and every month. And so I would love to see you guys in there. And of course, don't forget, you can go to Amazon and get the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing. There are 3 beautiful books right now, and we're getting ready to launch the 4th in 21, first quarter of 21. If you guys are listening and you're a healer, you have a tool to share, and you want to submit a chapter, come find me and I will tell you how to do that.
Excellent. I'm glad that I took that step. I first heard Laura Di Franco speak at Sterling Women, which is a business lunch group in Virginia, about 1.5 years ago. Yeah. And I thought, writing. I've done a lot of that writing stuff. And so it's just been a pleasure. It's been very, very rewarding. And I'm just hoping that we can continue to help people, particularly during this health crisis, and empower them with tools. People, you can find me at healthylivingwithjulianne.com. I am the Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing Volume 3 is also on my website, or you can go to Amazon. And my name is Julianne, and I really hope that you continue to enjoy the journey of life and that you don't just focus on the destination. Thank you very much. I'm Julianne, and this is Laura Di Franco. We appreciate it.
Thank you.